Welcome back to today's program here on the Taiwan Outlook. I'm your host, Wu Ruiguo. In this segment, we will continue our conversation with Mr. Peter Lai, who is a leading English teacher here in Taiwan. Peter, I want to ask you, you have a monthly publication called the Ivy League Analytical English. How did that publication come about? Can you share with us?
Well, actually, Ivy League has to do, with those famous universities in the United States. Mm-hmm. And I did, want to find, or rather, establish something that you could have the best quality.
Of course.
Representative of the quality of those schools.
Yeah.
So right after I came back, from the United States.
Okay.
By the way, I stayed in the United States for about 3 years.
3 years, okay.
Yeah.
But that's not very long. That's
no,
not very
it
extensive.
has nothing to do, by the way, also with how long you're going to stay over there in Taiwan, in the United States. I mean, in terms of mastering English.
Exactly. I can name tons of people, Peter, that who've stayed in the United States for 30 years who don't speak nearly as good English as you do. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Continue, please.
So actually, I didn't think of founding a magazine until one day I started to do the translation for a military magazine called Victorious.
Okay.
The editor-in-chief that time, was very eager to find a person that could do the translation in both languages, Chinese into Chinese into English, and English into Chinese.
Okay.
So they found me, and of course, I was more than happy to help him. Mm-hmm. So I started to do the translation, and I didn't know that the stuff was this thick, containing, let's say, about 10 to 15 articles on a monthly basis.
Ooh, that's
so it was a very large,
quite a heavy load,
huge workload for me. And also at that time, my wife, suffered from uremia, the kidney problem.
Okay, yes,
so later on, she was on a machine. So you can tell, how busy I was during the daytime.
Not easy. Yes.
Right. I had to teach, and occasionally I have to take care of my wife.
Of course.
But of course, I still had some limited time, and I started to do the translation. The articles, were written by those, Chinese, writers. The articles or the topics, actually were various, all kinds of articles. So for me, as a translator, that was also another burden. And I had to, consult a lot of information directly from the Central Library. Okay. Occasionally, I had to call my, classmates in the United States, and it was quite expensive at that time.
Yes, and it was quite a bit of research work.
Right, but I did everything with care. So later on, I didn't know that, a guy from the library, the library of U.S. Congress.
Okay.
This guy sent a letter, to the editor-in-chief. So
Victorious.
Yeah, this person was very happy, and then he said, "Hey, I want to do something for you, Peter."
Okay.
Jokingly, I just said, "Well, I hope that I can come up with a magazine that can help with the students here in Taiwan."
Okay.
And he kept that in mind.
Yes.
Right.
Okay.
So a short while later, I think it was in 1987 or something.
Okay.
I got a chance to do the broadcasting.
Oh.
And then, this magazine came into being.
Okay, good.
And then it was a time that I began to suffer. Because, we Chinese have a saying, if you want to set up a friend, persuade him
to do a magazine publication.
To publish a magazine.
Okay, so it was very difficult in terms of making the magazine publication stay in the positive and making the flow. Is that what the challenge was?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah.
And also that time, the time that was given me was not very, very good because, the time segment, that time, I still remember, was, at midnight, starting, let's say from 12:30 to 1 o'clock, half an hour.
Okay, 30
so
minutes.
Right.
Okay.
So originally I, thought about, getting an American to talk to me, on the show or something like that. Basically it was meant to be a conversational English program, but I thought because it was very late, and I started, to think of those students who want to score high on the joint college entrance examination.
Exactly.
That's why, we found this magazine that totally caters to those students.
Their needs. Yes.
Right.
And on the other hand, you have tried to develop Peter's English.
Right.
What is your vision for Peter's English as a leading language institute?
Well, actually, this business was, started, let's say, 4 years ago.
4 years ago,
Yeah,
okay.
because those friends, also my friends,
Okay.
have their children, so they wanted me to join them.
Okay.
So that, we could start, to come up with a lot of stuff, for children's English only.
Okay.
So we did this, and we first of all set up our own flagship language center, and they drew some people.
Yes.
And they came, to us, and gradually we developed into a franchise business. Currently, we have about close to 200 language centers.
So around the island.
Yeah, around the island. And also, recently, we set up our branch office in Shanghai and Qingdao. Yes.
Good. So that's another milestone, another breakthrough for the
Yeah,
Peter's English.
but we still have a long way to go because, different situations can be found in different places.
Yes.
Over here in Taiwan, students want to learn something that may be very funny, very interesting or something. But over there in mainland China, students want to learn something that is interesting, but at the same time,
Okay.
this very something should turn out to be of great help to their academic performance
Of course.
in their schools.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Peter, you mentioned earlier that in addition to China, you sometimes travel to Vietnam. What was your assignment or the purpose visiting Vietnam?
It was a very, very interesting trip, actually,
Okay.
because, we, as I said before, we come up with a variety of books.
Okay.
Books that mainly have to do with all kinds of examination. Now, the TOEIC test of English for international communication, this kind of a test has to do with business.
Yes.
So Vietnam is a country that is booming in terms of business.
Of course.
So a lot of people are trying to learn business English.
Oh,
and
okay.
somehow they just found that our books are very good. I'm not doing this for any kind of commercial.
I
actually.
understand. No problem.
So that's why they through some people that they recognize here, they got acquainted with here in Taiwan. They got our books and they were quite interested in our content.
Terrific.
So
Okay.
basically, we became their content provider, and they asked me to give some lectures over there.
So that relationship continues.
Right.
Okay. So in addition to Taiwan, China, and now there's Vietnam next on the agenda.
Yeah, well, we do hope that next time we can pay a visit to Japan over there,
okay.
because those Japanese, are eager to learn anything that has to do with foreign languages.
Exactly.
Basically, their pronunciation is pretty bad.
Yes, it's pretty
So that's
poor.
why they are trying very hard to improve their pronunciation, but there seems to be no way around to improve their, that kind of a situation. So
Yeah,
I do hope that I can do something.
Yes. And Peter, let me ask you then. You being a very outstanding English teacher, both in person, one-to-one consultation, and also in terms of on the media, on the internet, on radio, on TV programs. But also at the same time, now you're a business executive, you're an entrepreneur in starting your own business, especially in teaching English. How do you, balance the two roles that you play? And which one, if you have a preference?
Very good. I've never actually regarded myself, as an entrepreneur.
Okay.
Still, even today, I consider myself rather, instead of, let's say, as a teacher, English teacher, I always consider myself to be a student. Because if you're a student, you are, supposed to learn everything.
That's
I
right.
can learn anything very interesting directly from different sources, especially, from the internet. And then in terms of business, definitely I'm the owner,
of course.
the two businesses. But I do not actually resort to leadership. I just set an example by going to the office.
Okay.
Yeah, the earliest.
Okay, good.
So that's why, when by the time they, my staff members get to the office, they already see me.
The boss is already there.
Right,
Yes.
yeah, in my work.
Okay, so you set a very good example and very high standards for others to follow. Right. Is that also the way in terms of, you simulating that into your teaching method and hoping your students will be motivated, judging from your experience and improve their own abilities?
You got it, actually. So that's why I keep telling my personal story.
Yes.
This can probably or definitely, encourage our students or inspire my students to keep on learning English.
Yes, but of course we mentioned that you are now, branching now into China, and China, of course, is a massive market, massive country, and you probably have a lot of, competitors in mainland China who are also in the business of teaching English. And what would be your marketing strategy? Is distinguishing yourself, your teaching methods, and your angle, your niche in terms of branching out and expanding your market share in China.
All right, before I can answer your question, I have to say that back in the late 1980s or something, I already started teach English over there because
really?
Yes, the National Radio of China asked me to do the recording on a trial basis.
Okay.
And I did this for about an hour, and then they were quite happy about the results. They asked me to do the broadcasting 2 years later. And I got a chance to work with a very good friend of mine who's now teaching at National Taiwan University, Bruce Backnell.
Oh, okay.
He's one of the best teachers over there. So
Terrific.
we dealt with the students at 3 levels, the basic, the intermediate, and the advanced.
Okay.
We covered a whole area of China, excluding, of course, the Tibetan plateau.
Okay.
So close to 100 million people were influenced by us, according to the National Radio of China.
Tremendous, yes, indeed.
So I already stopped, doing the broadcasting 3 years ago, just because of my age. I'm getting younger and younger.
Yes, right.
So when they mention my name, probably those who are, 30, years old and above, they understand me. They know me, quite well. But to tell the truth, it's very hard to augment or expand our market over there in China, simply because, copyrights, preservation, protection. This is a very serious problems over there. So currently, the situation hasn't been improved yet. But we can foresee in the future this can be changed. By then, it would be, the right time for us to step in.
Okay, good. We're going to take another short break on the Taiwan Outlook, and we'll come back and continue our conversation with Mr. Peter Lai, who is a leading English teacher here in Taiwan. We'll be back in 3 minutes.